Governor of Lagos State, Dr. Kadri Obafemi Hamzat, members of the Lagos State Executive Council, especially the Honorable Commissioner for Information, Mr. Benga Omotosho, the Honorable Commissioner for Health, Professor Akinola Abayomi, and the Honorable Commissioner for Transportation, Dr. Frederick Oladeni, the General Manager, Lagos Traffic Radio, Mr. Tayo Akonli, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I say good morning to you all. I say good morning to Lagos, good morning Nigeria, good morning the global audience. You are all very much welcome to the 2020 Lagos Traffic Radio Lecture Series 5. The theme for the 2020 Lagos Traffic Radio Lecture Series 5 is Lagos Traffic Law Enforcement, the New Normal. You are all very much aware that due to the prevalence of the COVID-19 pandemic, a new reality has set in for us as mankind, and that has necessitated the organization of this year's annual lecture in a virtual form so that we can all keep safe and remain safe. Mr. Deputy Governor, sir, all other courtesies duly extended. Let me inform every one of us all that Lagos Traffic Radio was established in the year 2012 by the Babatunde Raji Fashola administration. And since then, the station has become a reference point for both residents of Lagos, Nigeria, and the Southwest sub-region in charting and navigating our ways all the time. Today, Traffic Radio has become the #1 radio station for most people. It has become the partner when people want to go out and commute, be it on the air, on land, by rail, even by the waterways. Traffic Radio is committed to providing information for all multimodal modes of transportation that you can think of. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, let me also distinguish us very much that, ladies and gentlemen, as this year's edition has been organized in compliance with the directives of the Lagos State government on strict adherence to social distancing. This virtual conferencing for this year's edition has been put in place to limit contact and support the Lagos State government health policy. Let me also remind us that the annual lecture series has always served and is serving as a platform to further discuss and profile solutions to ever increasing traffic challenges facing the good people of Lagos State. The idea is born out of the need for regular interface of ideas on best practices and latest tools that can be deployed to better manage the ever increasing motor traffic challenges and reckless driving on our roads in Lagos State. The event in the last 4 years has enriched the body of knowledge in traffic and transport management. It has brought together the stakeholders in the transportation management sector and offered ideas on transport policy, management and deployment of technology to traffic management systems. Let me quickly refresh us with some of the achievements we have recorded in the past with past editions of the annual Lagos Traffic Radio Lectures. The first edition was held in the year 2016, and the guest speaker then was and is still the Minister for Transportation, a former governor of Rivers State, His Excellency Rotimi Amechi. He spoke on migrating workforce, the challenges of mass transportation. The second edition was held in the year 2017, and the guest lecturer was Professor Odeunmi, who is the Dean, School of Transport, Lagos State University. He spoke on advancing urban transportation and mobility. The third edition had the former Director General of the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, NIMASA, Dr. Dakuku Peterside, as the guest lecturer. He spoke on Lagos State Transport Infrastructural Support Systems, the Governor Akinwumi Ambode strikes. The fourth edition, we had a former governor and present Minister of Works and Housing, Mr. Babatunde Raji Fashola, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, as a guest lecturer. He spoke on Lagos Beyond Roads, the intermodal transport option. This year, 2020, which is the Series 5, the theme once again is Lagos Traffic Law Enforcement, the new normal. The first session will have as the guest speaker the Honorable Commissioner for Health, Professor Akinola Abayomi. He will speak to us on safety starts with us, transportation and personal health responsibility. The session 2 will feature as the guest speaker the Honorable Commissioner for Transport, Dr. Frederick Oladendi. He will speak on Lagos Traffic Law Enforcement, the technology dynamics of new normal, while the keynote speaker will speak during the third session. He is the Deputy Governor of Lagos State. He will speak to us on fostering stakeholder relations, driven traffic enforcement in new normal. Dr. Obafemi answers. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, without much ado, I will now formally invite virtually the Honorable Commissioner for Information and Strategy, the man responsible for managing the information machinery for the state government and the chief spokesman of the Babajide Olusola Sanwo-Olu administration, to welcome us formally to this event. May I now formally invite Mr. Gbenga Omotosho to address us. Honorable Commissioner, sir.
Your distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you to the year 2020 annual Lagos Traffic Radio Lecture series, which is the 5th in the 8-year existence of this thematic radio station. The annual communion, which brings stakeholders in the transportation sector under one roof, is geared towards stimulating ideas for the advancement of this all-important sector. The lecture is primarily designed to ignite the best of intellectual depth to transport sector initiatives, development and growth, not just in Lagos but also in Nigeria. The forum has, in the past years, provided the opportunity for robust engagement on issues around the transportation sector, critically assessing where we are with a view to addressing some pertinent challenges around the industry. This year promises to be as engaging as ever. The 5th edition of the Lagos Traffic Radio Annual Lecture Series is coming at an auspicious time when humanity is battling the deadly calamity of coronavirus, and the attendant challenges have no doubt changed the way we live, the way we relate with one another, and our world with a view of good health and hygienic practices. Today, the risks associated with COVID-19 have propelled the human race into heightened levels of personal hygiene, social distancing, and limited physical contact, things we took for granted long before now. One of the fallouts of the COVID-19 pandemic is what has necessitated this webinar, which is being organized with stakeholders located at various places but brought together through the instrumentality of technology. The theme of this webinar, Traffic Law Enforcement, the New Normal, couldn't have come at a more appropriate time, considering the multi-sectoral effects of this pandemic. The transport sector is not immune to this common, unforeseen, but lethal enemy called COVID-19. And that is why the organizers of this lecture series have deemed it fit to bring this array of facilitators who will provide insights into traffic law enforcement in the wake of coronavirus. Transportation, no doubt, is an indispensable part of human activity, which forms the basis of a social interaction. Lagos State has a surging population of over 24 million people, carrying out 22 million trips daily. 9 million of this figure use public transportation. That is why the transport agenda for the state is critical to its success as a socio-economic model for the African continent. A lot of people in Lagos use vehicles to commute from one part of the state to another. The ever-increasing population of metropolitan Lagos creates congestion, which sometimes spans up to a kilometer away. Resolving the perennial traffic gridlocks in the state is of utmost priority to the Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu administration. That is why traffic and transportation is the foremost pillar of Mr. Governor's six-pillar development agenda tagged themes agenda. But why are the problems so strong? Lack of expertise, lack of political will, lack of cash, lack of human resources. What exactly is the problem? These are some of the questions that this gathering today is expected to answer. And with the array of people who are experienced, who are here, who are to speak at this webinar, I have no doubt that by the time we call it a day, we are going to have so many answers to these problems. The resolution of the multifarious challenges confronting transportation in Lagos requires a committed and deliberate approach which encourages the growth of other modes of transportation. Lagos is blessed with abundance of water resources, which, if properly annexed, can reduce traffic gridlocks to the barest minimum. And that is why initiatives such as the annual Lagos Traffic Radio Lecture Series are necessary. And we are proud of this initiative, and we will not stop associating with such. I'm quite confident that the area of speakers lined up, as I said before, for this intellectual launch will not only do justice to the theme of the lecture, but also leave us with a lasting impression, worthy and practical roadmap to the resolution of our transportation problems. I congratulate the management and staff of Lagos Traffic Radio for this initiative and for sustaining the tradition of bringing together stakeholders in the transport sector to discuss aspects of our transportation. It is an idea which will continue to resonate in the minds of policymakers, transportation experts, and participants. I want to use this opportunity to thank everyone for joining the webinar, and I urge everyone to listen attentively so that we can draw from the wisdom of our experienced resource persons. And I wish you all an engaging deliberation. Thank you so much for listening.
The Deputy Governor, sir, all other courtesies duly extended. Let me inform our listeners on the global village that you have the opportunity of asking questions through our various social media platforms. Just send them in to the various social media platforms of Lagos Traffic Radio while this program is going on. My name is Kunle Adeshina. We will now go on straight to the first speaker. Our guest speaker is a professor of medicine and an expert in internal medicine, hematology, environmental health, and biobanking. He is today serving as the Honorable Commissioner for Health, Lagos State. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, let me present to you Professor Akinola Abayomi. He's going to speak on the topic, Safety Starts With Us, Transportation and Personal Health Responsibility. Honorable Commissioner, sir, you have the floor.
And I'm here today to talk to you about the COVID-19 outbreak in Lagos State and related to some safety measures that I think the public should be aware of, especially relating to the subject of transportation and movement around the city. So just a brief background. As you know, our outbreak has been going on for several months now, since our first index case earlier on in the year. We've seen altogether 25,000 confirmed cases of COVID-19. We've performed a large number of tests, approaching 200,000 tests. Right from the beginning, our testing strategy has been increasing every month, from about 200 to 500 to 1,000, and now we're testing close to 2,000 people every day from across Lagos State in all the local government areas and LCDAs. The idea of that is to get a very good impression about what COVID is doing in Lagos, how it's spreading, whether there are any hotspots, and whether we need to interrupt the manner in which COVID is being transmitted from person to person. So as we had predicted at the outbreak, using our data, we knew that we were going to peak around July, August, and see a downward trend in the number of cases that we were seeing because of the interventions that we put across in terms of awareness, education, testing, isolating, and treating. And the government has spent a lot of energy and time to prevent the virus from moving uncontrollably through the community. And we've been able to achieve that. And the numbers of cases have been going down. This is important so that we could open up the economy again. As you recall, it was difficult for Lagosians when we had a lockdown. It means that there will be a reduction in your ability to earn a living, to carry out your normal day-to-day activity. And so it was important for the government to put those measures in place to see a subsidence or a reduction in the amount of transmission that's going on in Lagos, which we did achieve. But naturally, when you open up the economy, you will expect that the general increase in movement of people will perhaps lead to some more transmission of the virus from person to person, because if you are staying at home, you don't come into contact with people. But if you start moving around, doing your day-to-day activities, you're more likely to encounter more people on a day-to-day basis, and therefore the chances that you will come into contact with somebody with the virus increases. So as you open up the economy, we naturally expect that we're going to see a few more cases. But the whole idea is that we open up the economy carefully and safely so that we can maintain that economic activity without allowing the virus to get out of hand and create the situation where the government has to impose another lockdown and slowing down of the economy. So in the last few months, from September to October, we had very low numbers. But around November and early December, we've noticed that our numbers are going up again slightly. So it would appear now that we are at the early stages of a second wave of COVID. Now, what does that mean? It just means that we're seeing more transmission in community, we're admitting more people into our isolation centers, and we're just seeing more activity around the COVID-19. And now that is not unusual because we've seen that happening all over the world. Some countries have gone through a second and a third wave. So we expect that we're going to see a slight upward spike. The magnitude of that spike, in other words, the number of people that we're seeing with new infections, really is determined by how we open up the economy and our compliance with the guidelines that we have carefully set out for people to go around their day-to-day business. Now, importantly, is transportation. And transportation is in many forms. So obviously, to open up the economy, people start flying into the country and Nigerians fly out of the country. So port health is very important. So as you fly into the country, we have to make sure you're flying in from countries where the virus is almost out of control. We have to make sure that we're not importing new cases into Lagos and into Nigeria. So the airline regulations, very important. You cannot get onto an aircraft bound for Lagos or any other part of Nigeria unless you have a negative test by PCR. It's very important that you remember that. If you want to fly into Nigeria, you cannot board an airline unless you present a certificate that says you are negative for COVID-19 by PCR, which is the most sensitive test that we have at the moment. At the same time, the airlines have set up their own safety guidelines to make sure that while you're flying, your environment is safe, they don't overcrowd the aircraft, there is enough space in the aircraft to practice social distancing. And when you arrive in Lagos or in any other port in Nigeria, it is mandatory that you go into 7 days of self-isolation, and on the 7th day that you would have booked yourself for a test, and to make sure that if you perform that test and it's negative, then you're free to move around. But if your test is positive, then you must remain in self-isolation until 14 days, by which time we're confident that you would have cleared the virus and you don't pose a danger to other members of society. So that is airline transport. Now there is day-to-day transport within the city. So how do you move around? How do you go from your house to work and back home? How do you go to your places of normal activity? A lot of people use public transport. That is the main means of transportation for most Lagosians. So it's important to talk about the safety around public transportation. And in general, what we're promoting is that you avoid touching too many surfaces. Obviously, you wear your face mask when you go out of your home and you're in the public. And when you're wearing your face mask, you have to wear the face mask properly. The way to wear the face mask is to cover your nose and your mouth, and you keep it above your nose and covering your mouth so that your nose and your mouth are properly covered. Don't touch it excessively. You can drop it from time to time to allow yourself a few minutes of normal breathing. You try and be away from people when you do that, and when you come back to where you're surrounded by a lot of people, then you put it back on like that. okay? We don't encourage you using face masks on young children under the age of 2 because sometimes they cannot regulate how they breathe. So we try and protect very young children by exempting them from wearing face masks. Now, when you get into a transport, if it's a public transport, a bus, a taxi, it should not be overcrowded. Our recommendations is that a bus should not have more than 50%, 60% capacity, and that there's adequate space inside the transport for you to practice some degree of social distancing. And while you're in the bus or in the public transport, that you're wearing your face mask. Avoid excessive touching and contact with people. Just keep your hands to yourself. You have your hand sanitizer. You sanitize as often as you can, and you practice, distancing between people and reduced amount of contact or touching surfaces. If the transport is a bit, if the air is a bit choked inside the transportation, you can request that the windows are opened so that the ventilation is improved. If there is air conditioning, the air conditioning should be working so that there is circulation of air. Similarly, on bigger buses, the same thing applies. In taxis, the same thing applies. You should not be sitting too close to each other. You should certainly not be sitting on top of each other. We've seen occasions where people are sitting on each other's lap. That is absolutely forbidden and prohibited. There must be enough space within the transport system that you're using so that there can be enough space between people and that there's fresh air blowing in and out of the transport vehicle that you're traveling in. When you're at the bus stop and you're queuing up to enter the vehicle, don't choke each other. Give yourself the 1.5 to 2 meters distance. When you're queuing up, allow space between each other so that, again, you're not breathing into each other's face and you're not touching each other, and you're practicing that social distancing that protects you from contracting the virus. You never know who has the virus. One thing we've noticed in this environment is that many people are infected with the virus and they don't know. So you'll be going around with doing your normal business, and you don't know that you're secreting the virus. And people around you cannot tell that you're secreting the virus. So the best way to protect yourself is just to keep a distance between people when you're in public. And as I've explained, you keep the social distancing of 1 to 2 meters, you wear your face mask, avoid excessive touching of surfaces, and certainly avoid touching other people or sitting in a manner in which your body comes into contact with another person. I think if you follow these guidelines that the government has established, both at the federal level and at the state level, you will be able to protect yourself and reduce the opportunity for you to be infected with COVID-19. If we all practice these guidelines, then I think we'll be able to, amongst other things, prevent Lagos from going into a second wave of COVID-19 that may cause us to create some restrictions on economic activity, which we all want to avoid. So listen to our guidelines, practice them, be safe, be observant, be critical of other people. If people are not doing what they're supposed to do, you can explain to them that, please, you need to put on your face mask, you need to stand a certain distance away from me, and you should avoid situations where the virus can easily move from person to person. If you follow these guidelines, I think Lagos State will be fine, and we should be able to keep a second wave under control. This is to wish all Lagosians a very happy and safe Christmas and Happy New Year and the festive season. If we follow the guidelines that the government is publishing and reinforcing, I think, we will be safe and we will protect our family members from COVID. We don't want to see sick people over the festive season. We want you all to be in a state of happiness and celebration. Avoid crowd in yourselves, listen to our guidelines, and we'll all have a very nice end-of-year celebration, festive Christmas season, and we can go into 2021 with strength and with confidence that we are doing all we need to do to protect each other. Thank you very much, and happy Christmas and a happy New Year.
You're welcome back. We have just listened to the presentation of the Honorable Commissioner for Health, Professor Akinola Abayomi. He spoke to us on safety starts with us, transportation and personal health responsibility. According to the Health Commissioner, he said the present administration of Mr. Babajide Olusola Sanwo-Olu is committed to reduction of the spread of COVID-19, but that as the administration opens up the economy, it is about doing it slowly so that community spread does not get too high to be controlled. He said between September and October, Lagos State witnessed a low level of infection, but that between November and December, we've had the numbers going up. He said this is not unusual because if we look at what has happened in several countries across Europe and the Americas, the same has happened. He said what is very important is about how compliant every one of us is. He says that will determine the level concerning how low we get or how high we get. He also spoke about some of the public transportation safety measures that we can take as individuals to ensure that we don't get infected and we don't infect others. According to the Health Commissioner, one basic rule is that we must always wear our face masks properly. He said the issue of some people not wearing face masks is unacceptable. He said when we wear face masks, we must ensure that we don't touch too many items or surfaces. He says if we adopt the attitude of not shaking people and not touching surfaces or touching items and objects, we'll go a long way in not getting our hands infected and subsequently putting them in our eyes, nostrils, or our mouth. He also advocated that in terms of using mask usage is not advised for children below the age of 2. He says this is because they might not be able to regulate the usage, because as adults, at times when we know that we're not in proximity with so many people, we can remove the mask to allow fresh breath of air sometimes, but our children, especially within that age range, might not be able to do that on their own. Concerning commuting, he advised that we should not attempt to even enter overcrowded buses or taxis. He says the safety protocol of the state government stipulates that all such buses should be at 50% capacity, so that at no point must we get into any bus or taxi or whatever that is above 50% in terms of the people that are inside. He says inside the bus too, we should maintain some form of social distancing, minimum of 1.5 meters from the next person. He says the major problem is that a lot of people are asymptomatic and they don't know that they are infected, and they keep on infecting others while they don't know. He says the best way is to keep a distance, that if we maintain all these safety protocols, we will be safe, our state will be safe, and our country will be safe. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, that would dovetail into the section 2 of this annual lecture series. The next speaker, he holds a PhD in transport planning, modeling and engineering. He is also a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport, United Kingdom. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the Honorable Commissioner for Transport, Lagos State, Dr. Frederick Oladeyinde. He will speak to us on the topic Lagos Traffic Law Enforcement, the technology dynamics of new normal. Honorable Commissioner for Transport, sir, you have the floor.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for inviting me to the 5th edition of the Traffic Radio Lecture Series. Sorry I can't be with you, but I'm sure you're all having a great deliberation. Please allow me to stand on existing protocol as I read my address. I warmly welcome all stakeholders in the transport sector to the 5th Annual Lagos Traffic Radio Lecture Series, and it is my privilege to be invited here to speak to the topic Lagos Traffic Law Enforcement, the technology dynamics of new normal. Let me specifically congratulate and commend the General Manager, Lagos Traffic Radio, Mr. Tayo Akonle, management and the entire staff of the Lagos Traffic Radio for your great stride and unrelenting effort in providing up-to-date traffic information to motorists across the metropolis. Your effort is more commendable considering the usefulness of every bit of traffic information provided by your organization to assist the people plan their travel and aid efficient traffic management and control by various government agencies saddled with such responsibility. I am particularly happy with this year's lecture focus, which is on technology dynamics of traffic law enforcement in our dear state, because the place of technology in traffic law enforcement in an emerging smart city like ours with an estimated population of 22 million cannot be overemphasized. As we are all aware, efficient traffic management and transportation is the first pillar of the 6-pillar development agenda of Mr. Babajide Olusola Sanwo-Olu-led administration in the state. This is not by accident. Rather, it underscores the administration's realization of the crucial role that effective and efficient transportation system has to play in achieving sustainable economic growth and infrastructure development. As a matter of fact, transportation remains the pillar upon which all other 5 development agenda rest. This is why concerted effort has been made right from the inception by this administration to integrate technological innovations and dynamics into the traffic management apparatus of the state, thereby strengthening the development and application of technology in proffering solutions to traffic gridlock and strengthening enforcement. The Lagos State Vehicle Inspection Service, VIS headquarters, was commissioned on the 24th of December 2019. During the commissioning, the governor noted that there has been substantial improvement in the implementation of the state's traffic law with the introduction of automatic number plate recognition, popularly known as AMPL, and Lagos Computerized Vehicle Inspection Services, popularly known as LACVIS. The AMPL technological devices have been installed at some specific locations around the metropolis and on some operational vehicles for accurate vehicle inspection operations across the state. AMPL cameras capture number plates of all vehicles that pass through where the AMPL camera is fixed, and regardless of the speed at which such vehicle moves, the camera recognizes the number plate and records it into a system at the back-end office with accurate data of types of violations committed. This device also captures defects in vehicle parts, such as the lights, wiper, mirrors, windscreen, and the rest of them. The AMPL system synchronizes with database platforms of FRSC, Lagos State Drivers Institute, also known as LADRI, insurance, and others for scrutinizing features such as so as to confirm the validity and authenticity of the vehicles and drivers' documents. The implementation of this automatic number plate recognition technology has significantly reduced human intervention in the activities of ensuring valid vehicle documentation in Lagos. So just to summarize the features of AMPL, so what happens is that where we have the fixed cameras and where you have them mounted on the mobile vehicles, they capture number plates, and then they run it against the database, and then to check whether you have the accurate documentations or not. And if you don't, a ticket is simply generated, which is sent to your home. And so what we are simply trying to do is to minimize human contact and to stop vehicles and then cause congestion on the road. So this is where technology will be having a great impact in Lagos State. Now let me also move on to the LACVIS technology. So the Lagos State government has also formed an alliance with an IT company with requisite technology and skills to form what is known as Lagos Computerized Vehicle Inspection Service. So what this does is that every part of your vehicle is checked using technology rather than basing it on human judgment. And as a result of that, a form is generated which talks about the defect, and then the mechanics can simply go to work and then rectify them before a roadworthiness certificate is actually given. So at the moment, we have about 18 centers, and the plan is to develop 57 centers across the state, and so that every LCDA would have one center, and so people don't have to travel long distances to actually get their cars serviced. So, and over time, as we participate with the private sector, we'll develop more centers, and obviously we'll create more employment for people in Lagos State. Now, let me also talk about the Smart City initiative in Lagos today. So, in making Lagos smart, 6,000 kilometers of metro fiber is being planned for Lagos. At the moment, 3,000 kilometers is being laid, and the metro fiber will be accompanied by dock, so that any operator that is desirous of expansion will not need to start digging. And so what we're doing is we're providing infrastructure for every technology company to key into, rather than them digging the floor and then putting their individual infrastructure. Since, we're developing a smart city, basically we'll be deploying 2,000 cameras across the city, and these cameras will be linked to a center, a control center where we can monitor traffic and then we can monitor people that break the speed light, people that don't have the right documentation, without actually going on the road and stopping them. And this is very important, especially in light of what has happened this year with COVID and with a lot of people coming into Lagos, because Lagos is a vibrant economy. Everybody wants to come to Lagos, and we can't stop everybody from coming to Lagos. But the most sustainable way of moving people across and ensuring that we don't stop people on the road is to deploy technology. So we have our public transport that will be enhanced with technology. We also have the road transport where enforcement will play, technology will play a key role in the enforcement of our traffic laws. Now, also coming in the next couple of weeks is what we call the handheld cameras. And this is where LASMA will be enhanced in doing their enforcement duties. So LASMA at the moment are responsible for ensuring that traffic flows. And in the process, when people break the lights, etc., sometimes they have to apprehend, but we want to remove that responsibility from LASMA so that they can be more efficient. And what we're simply going to be doing is to roll out about 1,000 handheld cameras that are ANPR enabled. And so what will happen is that as people break the light, or maybe people park illegally, all they need to do is take a picture. The picture goes to the back end, and then we'll run the database to see where that person lives, and then a referral ticket is sent to that person rather than stopping people on the road. And I think that is important for a mega city like Lagos State. So in a nutshell, basically technology would be deployed to our various enforcement agencies to ensure that we have minimal contact with the people on the road, and we allow traffic to flow freely, and then people that break the law, they will get a ticket at home, and then obviously we can either pick up the vehicles at their homes, or we ask them to come to the nearest LASMA, VIS, or it could be the police station, depending on the kind of offense that is committed. So that way, we are now moving into a much more civilized way of engaging with the public and not treating them, people like animals on the street. It's very important. So technology is critical. Technology is very important. The Lagos State is totally committed to deploying technology in all areas of transportation, particularly public transport and in traffic management. So distinguished listeners, while thanking you for your genuine concern for efficient traffic management and transportation as an ingredient of, for economic growth and infrastructure development, I assure you that the state government, under the leadership of Governor Babajide Olusola Sanwo-Olu, will continue to implement the new policies in transport sector reforms towards building a transport system that will be better for all. A transport system that will be enabled with technology, a transport system where technology will drive enforcement, and when people begin to see that there is nowhere for them to hide, you will simply see people behaving properly, and we have a much more free flow traffic around Lagos, and people behaving responsibly. And that would allow LASMA to focus more on, resolving conflicts at junction rather than trying to stop people. It would allow VIS to focus on ensuring that vehicles are roadworthy, and it just makes better use of everybody's time. Let me also remind you that this is the Ember Month, and it's very important that we all stay safe. Drive carefully. Do not drink when you know that you're going to drive. Let's respect each other on the road, and let's keep safe. It's very important that We all respect the traffic law. Do not drive against one way because you end up causing confusion on the network. So please drive safely, respect other road users, and let's be safe. Have a successful deliberation, and thank you for the opportunity to address you once again. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you very much. You're welcome back. We have just listened to the Honorable Commissioner for Transport, Dr. Frederick Oladenji. He spoke to us on the topic, Lagos Traffic Law Enforcement, the technology dynamics of the new normal. While he spoke to us, he dwelt on several issues, one of which is that the Vehicle Inspection Service has commissioned an automatic plate number recognition system which has been installed in certain areas. It aims to reduce human intervention in terms of enforcement of the law. He also talked about the intention of the state government to deploy 2,000 cameras around the state, insisting that technology will play a key role in the enforcement effort of the state government in the transportation sector. According to Dr. Frederick Oladen, he said another 1,000 handheld cameras will be purchased for law enforcement officers, especially last mile officers, in such a way that as any errant motorist breaks the law, they will take or snap the picture. Such a picture will go to a particular back end, which is collated in a particular office. He says through this, such people will have their fines or whatever sent to them through their recorded addresses on the database of the state government. He said the new normal is about a civilized way of engaging with the people and treating them with some level of civility. He assured everyone that the Babajide Olusola Sanwo-Olu will continue to implement the new sector reforms in the transportation sector in such a way that we will have a better Lagos for all residents, so that the Vehicle Inspection Service can focus on its primary duty of ensuring sanity on the roads and our vehicles. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, let me now move on to formally introduce the keynote speaker. He is a man I'll describe as an egghead in this administration. He is an academic, someone who has paid his dues and has demonstrated over time that he is someone from whom many have drank from his fountain of knowledge. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the man I'm talking about has served in many past administrations in Lagos State. He has held cabinet positions, and today he serves as the deputy governor of Lagos State. He is our keynote speaker, at the 2020 Lagos Traffic Radio Lecture. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Dr. Kadri Obafemi Hamzat, the Deputy Governor of Lagos State. He is going to speak to us on the topic fostering stakeholders and Lagosians' support for technology-driven traffic law enforcement in new normal. Mr. Deputy Governor, sir, you are respectfully invited.
So good morning, everyone. Let me use this opportunity to welcome everyone to the 5th lecture series of Lagos Traffic Radio. As we are all aware, this series takes place every year, and this is the 5th in a row. So for my role is to talk about transportation and stakeholder role in Lagos of our tomorrow, given the new normal. Right? As we all know, transportation allows us to move people, to move goods, to allows us to do services, to go to work, for leisure, and so on and so forth. So it's extremely important. So as we all know, in Lagos we have this smallest size in terms of land in our country, but we have the largest population. So what that means theoretically is that we have a densely populated city. And then again, we have 9,000 kilometers of road, but we have enormous amount of vehicles. In fact, it's stated that about 14 to 15% of vehicles in Nigeria resides in Lagos. So if you put all those together, the size of land, the number of vehicles and everything, you realize that traffic is a major issue in Lagos. So it's germane that every user of roads, water and everything understands that we all affect the lives of everybody, our GDP, based on transportation. So it's even worse because close to 90% of all our movement of goods happen on the road. So because the rail is not fully developed now, we are building the blue line, like everybody can see from Orile now to, but again, it's not yet being used. So until it is being used, majority of the transportation will be on road. Water transportation is picking up, it's getting better, but it's not where we want it to be. So because of that, what we do on the road is extremely, extremely important. So it is estimated that we lose a lot of money yearly on because of traffic jam, traffic congestions and the rest. And you will notice that if you look on our road and you see the number of trucks on our road, it's a lot of trucks. But those trucks are also doing certain things. They are moving fuel, they are moving goods. So it's to actually serve the people. So really, but the biggest problem for us also is the breakdown of some of these vehicles. When these vehicles break down, for example, it takes time to move them away. So the few things that needs to happen better is our VIO. We need to do inspection of vehicles better so that vehicles that are not roadworthy can be dealt with before it goes on the road, so that it doesn't cause congestion for all of us. And then in terms of all of us obeying traffic officials and then traffic signals, a lot of things have been done in terms of junction improvement to make sure that we improve our junction, improve signalization. We realize that roundabouts don't seem to serve us well in this part of the world, given the density also on the road, and therefore we are removing a lot of roundabouts in Igodo, in Lekki 1, in Allen Avenue, and so on, so that we can now signalize and move vehicles faster. So basically the essence for us, like I said, is to make sure that we diversify our transportation mode. The rail is the big one, and the blue line, as I said before, will keep moving, but we want people to use more water transportation. Lagos State government has invested by buying a lot of ferries. We are buying additional seats now to make sure high capacity ferries that can carry 50, 60 people at a go, so that at least we can. But we also need the private sector to actually create into this business, because the essence of government actually going inside is to make sure that we let people understand that it is profitable, it's doable, and that's why the essence of our Lagos State government actually buying this ferry. We don't want to be in the operation of running ferries, but we just want to, sort of energize the whole process so that people can get into it. So basically, I think the most important for us also is obedience of our traffic laws. And I think the duty of obedience to that law is critical. All of us need to obey the traffic laws. People should stop riding on one way. So enforcement is important, but enforcement also costs money. So that's money that goes to something that is more beneficial to all of us, rather than spending it to enforce traffic rules. But we have no choice to do enforcement, it must be done. But if we comply, it makes life easier for all of us, because it makes it easy for everybody to move on the road without us. And some of the things that we are doing basically is to make sure that we strengthen control using technology. So last mile officials, we now have a fantastic walkie-talkie that they can talk to each other anywhere. So what that means is it allows them to monitor traffic, and they can communicate among themselves in a better way, and then utilization of our traffic radio. So we encourage people to listen more also to traffic radio, so that you can plan your movement. Because on traffic radio, last one we have reported that this place is jammed, this place is opened, and so on and so forth. So we don't just go without checking all these things. Also, Ministry of Transportation officials and all the agencies, like I said, last mile, VIO, and the rest, will help us to actually also enforce our traffic laws. The media is also important. We do all sorts of radio jingles and the rest to make sure that we all do the right thing by not driving against traffic, by not driving one way, or causing accidents for others. And then, of course, if you recall, one of the reasons why traffic radio was established was actually to give people information and to solve that problem. And I think they've been doing a great job. So we just need to help them listen more to traffic radio, so that at least we can plan our day. That's what happens in most jurisdictions. People listen to television, to radio news, to hear the information about traffic, and then they plan their day. We should do the same thing so that we can get better results. So I want to thank everybody for listening to me, and I wish everybody that's part of this exercise a very wonderful celebration. Thank you very much. God bless you.
You are welcome back. We have just listened to the presentation of the keynote speaker and the Deputy Governor of Lagos State, Dr. Kadri Obafemi Hamzat. Thank you very much once again, sir. Distinguished guests and all those who are viewing us live on our various social media platforms, like I said, if you go to our Facebook page, there is a link through which you can connect us. The same applies to the Instagram and Twitter handles. We have links through which you can join us for this program right now. Let me now, before the program is gradually coming to a close, let me at this point refresh us with some of the contents of the presentations that we have had today. We started with the Honorable Commissioner for Health, Professor Akinola Abayomi. He spoke to us on the necessity of wearing face mask properly and avoiding the touch of too many items and surfaces. He also said we should ensure that entering overcrowded buses or taxis is a no-no for every one of us all. The government protocol states that all such buses should be at maximum 50% capacity of loading. It says any vehicle that has gone beyond 50%, we should not attempt to enter such buses. and that while inside the bus, we should maintain some level of social distancing, minimum of 1.5 meters. He says the practice of some people lapping themselves in commercial vehicles is totally unacceptable. He says what is very worrisome is that a lot of people may be asymptomatic and they will not know that they are infected, and in the process they are infecting more people. He says so the rule is that at all times we should wear our face mask properly and avoid touching too many items and surfaces. He gave an assurance that the high number that were returning in terms of COVID-19 infections that we have been seeing since the commencement of November till December is nothing unusual. He says when compared to what is happening in several distant locations in Europe and the Americas, we will all see and observe that the second stage, the early stage of the second wave is about to hit us in Nigeria, but that it is about taking personal responsibility. The Commissioner for Transportation, Dr. Frederick Oladende, in his own presentation, informed us of the several measures that the present administration, under the able leadership of Mr. Babajide Olusola Sanwo-Olu, has undertaken to position the transportation sector to be able to assist and ensure that they don't aid the spread of COVID-19. He says, as a rule, the VIS office was commissioned and that an automatic plate number recognition will be installed in several areas. He says what this technology intends to do is to reduce human intervention, whereas any vehicle, either commercial or private, that applies such route where this device is installed, it will take the number of such a vehicle and will register if indeed it has infringed on any of the laws. He says plans are also afoot to deploy 2,000 cameras around the state in such a way that technology will play a key role in our enforcement efforts. He also informed us that there is plan to buy 1,000 handheld cameras which will be used to apprehend those who break the laws in such a way that as the law is being broken, pictures are taken. Such pictures are automatically sent to a back end from where it is collated, and all such offenders will be located through their addresses and the appropriate sanctions applied. He says the way forward for this present administration is about civilized ways of engaging with the people and ensuring an efficient traffic management policy is in place. He assured that the administration under the governor, Mr. Babajide Olusola Sanwo-Olu, will continue to implement new sector reforms that will be to the betterment of all residents of Lagos State. The deputy governor, who is the keynote speaker in his presentation, which is subtitled Transportation and Stakeholders' Role in Lagos of Tomorrow, spoke extensively about the fact that the present administration has been able to diversify modes of transportation by investing and promoting water transportation, especially since the state has comparative advantage given its extensive water body. He also spoke about the state's investment in the red-blue lines, which will assist in mass transportation. He spoke on improvement in the quality of roads to promote better movement. Signalization has also solved the issues of traffic jam and removal of some roundabouts, in addition to the introduction of video-based image capture to document infractions, which the Honourable Commissioner also dwelt on. Mr. Deputy Governor also informed us that the citizens have a role to play, which is about a duty of obedience to laws that exist to regulate human behavior. He says on Lagos roads, few people flout these laws, such as Okadas, in spite of its impact. He says while technology exists to assist in law enforcement, a collective acceptance of minimum principle of behavior is germane for success to be achieved. He says obedience then reduces the negatives seen on our roads. Collectively, he said, as a government, the present administration is running an open administration which is working to strengthen control mechanism by using transport association to promote best practices. Transport Ministry and its agencies engage in stakeholders engagement and advocacy, and is also working on the media such that there are programs dedicated to promoting ideals on driving behavior. He also cited the establishment of traffic radio as one of the key measures undertaken by the administration to ensure its openness. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is indeed a pleasure that we have had the opportunity of listening to three wonderful resource persons speak to us on the topic for this year's, the theme for this year's 2020 Lagos Traffic Radio Lecture Series. The theme once again is Lagos Traffic Law Enforcement, the new normal. We have listened to different vistas through which we can live a safer life and ensure that Lagos and Nigeria remain safe. It is not my duty to thank us for the wonderful time we have had today. Let me at this point formally invite the General Manager of Lagos Traffic Radio, Mr. Tayo Akonde, to please step forward and give the vote of thanks. General Manager, sir, you are invited.
Mr. Deputy Governor of Lagos State, Dr. Kadri Obafemi Hamzat, let me stand on the existing protocol that have been established by the MC. On behalf of the management and staff of Lagos Traffic Radio, I give thanks to the Almighty God, the Creator of mankind, for His unfailing love, mercies, and faithfulness, and for making today a reality in spite of the many challenges along the way. My special appreciation goes to our amiable Mr. Governor, Mr. Babajide Olusola Sanwo-Olu, the Governor of Lagos State, who is a man of vision and passion for a Lagos of our dreams. The purposeful leadership he has continually shown in order to achieve a greater Lagos, even in the face of global pandemic, is commendable and worthy of emulation. My special thanks goes to our special guest of honor, who is also the lead speaker of this year's event, the Deputy Governor of Lagos State, Dr. Kadri Obafemi Hamzat. Sir, I must mention our deep sense of appreciation for your delivery of the newspaper and explanations you have offered. To our distinguished speakers, Dr. Frederick Oladende, Honorable Commissioner for Transport, and Professor Akinola Abayomi, the Commissioner for Health, we are grateful to you all for your efforts, and the contents of your deliveries are highly appreciated. I wish to especially thank the Honorable Commissioner for Information and Strategy, Mr. Gbenga Omotosho, for his unflinching support towards the realization of this event and other of our activities. I also want to express my profound gratitude to the body of permanent secretaries, especially Mr. Shinoto, the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Information and Strategy, and Mr. Oluseyi Iwenu, the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Transportation, for their fatherly role towards the success of this year's lecture series. To our stakeholders, Lagos State Traffic Management Authority, LASMA, Vehicle Inspection Service, VIS, Federal Road Safety Corps, FRSC, Lagos State Command, and others, we say thank you for your continued support. I also want to express my heartfelt appreciation to our partners, too numerous to mention. We are so grateful for your support. Ours is a fraternity established for the good of the transition system in Lagos and its environs. Once again, I say a big thank you for being there for us. Let us do this together again next year. To the management and staff of this great station, I say a very special thank you for all your support and cooperation all through organizing these auspicious events. I also want to use this medium to appreciate all our friends in the media. Thank you for your unfailing support always. Finally, to everyone who made out time to be part of this year's event via the dedicated social media platforms, and on behalf of the management and staff of the station, we say a big thank you. We pray that Lagos of our dreams shall manifest sooner than later. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Mr. General Manager Tayo Akonle. We appreciate you. That represents the last word. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, please join us next year as we converge again for the 6th annual Lagos Traffic Radio Lecture Series. And if God willing, we will have conquered COVID-19 by then. We will have an audience participatory annual lecture series. Thank you very much and have a good afternoon.